Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the wilds of Suffolk. I'm out here in the another forest close to my house today. Just going for a walk in the bright sunshine. It's beautiful here. Absolutely lovely day, bright sunshine, and lovely here in the UK. I hope it's as lovely where you are. Thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate you spending time with me as I go through these walks and talks. I realise that everyone's busy nowadays and your time is precious, and I appreciate you spending it with me. So welcome to those who are just joining for the first time. If you haven't been here before and you don't know what this is all about, then you're in for a rude awakening probably. You've come on the right day or the wrong day, whichever way however you may feel about this after you've listened to it. If you haven't been here, just this channel is about a narrative arc. So it starts from the beginning, the introduction, that I introduced myself, what I was planning to do, and each video follows on, and it all links together in a way to form a narrative that explains my opinions, my thoughts on current events happening in the world at the moment. So today's subject, which is very fitting for the time right now, and it ties in with everything that I've done before, and I'll tie it all together at the end. So I'll just do a little bit of an adjustment here. Today's topic of discussion is NESARA, GESARA, and the Great Reset, and what's the difference between the two, and what you should know, and what you can do about it. So NESARA, if you haven't heard about it, is National Economic Reforms and Security Act. Was originally done, I think it's been around for a while. I don't know exactly when it started. I think it was in the 60s. It's a law that was supposed to be passed to reform how the US, with NESARA is based in the US, national, and there's another one, GESARA, which is global economic. So NESARA was originally proposed in the US. It was supposed to be signed into a law on the September 11th in 2001, I believe, but that didn't happen because of some planes hitting buildings. Look at this place, beautiful. So the premise of NESARA and GESARA is there's lots of different things, but it goes back to constitutional law, and one of the big ones was it takes the power away from the central banking institutions. Now, if you've looked at my videos, you'll know why I don't like the central banking institutions, and if you don't understand central banking, then you should go back to the second video I made, which is money the root of all evil? That explains sort of the creation of money and why it doesn't suit any of us, and why it's actually a prison for us all. So the NESARA and GESARA is about freeing us from this the living under a global central banking system, and having a fairer way that we create money, about money creation and how money moves around the world. So the other side of the coin is something called the Great Reset. Now, the Great Reset is being proposed by the World Economic Forum. Now, if you don't know what the World Economic Forum is, it's a group that was put together by a guy called Klaus Schwab. You should really go and have a look at Klaus Schwab. He looks like a Bond villain. So basically the World Economic Forum is the global elites that get together once a year in Davos for a few days, and they discuss how they're going to rule the world. Basically, that's the best way I can put it. They have politicians, they have Hollywood elite, they have the elites of society, the millionaires and billionaires. It's how they describe it as where billionaires go to tell millionaires how to live. That's a good description, I think. So it's in Davos in Switzerland every year, and they go there and they plan out how they're going to rule the world, and how they're going to guide the world on the way that they want it to be. We don't get a choice in that. They decide all those decisions for us, which is nice, or not so much. So he proposed this plan. Now I'm sure if you've been into any kind of conspiracy over the years, you would have heard of the New World Order that's been discussed for years and years and years and years, and there's been lots of people guessing and asking questions about what the New World Order is. And the Great Reset that they're talking about in the World Economic Forum is the New World Order. That's the way they want us to live. One of the big things of this, and I'll put a link in the bottom so that you don't think I'm making this up. one of the big things about this new, the global reset, the Great Reset that they're talking about, is climate change, obviously, because climate change is on their agenda for a reason, because it gives them more control over money. If you haven't, like I say, if you haven't seen my videos before, then I've done another one on climate change as well, so you should probably go and have a look at that one. So yes, the Great Reset, but one of the key principles is, and like I say, I'll give the link, you'll own nothing and be happy. Now, I've worked my entire life, I've been a chef for 33 years, I've worked my entire life so that my children don't have to work so hard. I've invested, I've done everything in my power so that my children don't have to work as hard as I have in order just to live and get by. And now the World Economic Forum has made a decision that means that I won't own anything and I'll be happy, apparently. Now, they said, the premise is that you'll rent everything. Now, if I'm not going to own it and no one's going to own anything, then who am I renting from? That's the first question I want to ask. I mean, this Great Reset, who am I going to rent it from? Now, why do they want to do this Great Reset? I mean, this is the key to the nuts and bolts of everything. The Great Reset that they're talking about is being proposed because the financial system as we know it collapsed in 2008 with the subprime mortgage nonsense that the bankers were responsible for. And they've come to the end of the life cycle of the fiat currencies. Everything is based on the American dollar. The American dollar is the world reserve currency, if you don't know that. And it's come to the end of its life because what they do is as they print money and put it into circulation, they call that inflation, which they try and set at 2% a year, which there never is. It's always more. So every year they're inflating this money supply by 2%. But like I say, it's always more. So because they're putting more money into the system, the value of that money goes down, which means your buying power goes down. So if you've got money saved and in the bank account, every year you're getting robbed of 2%. But as I say, it's always more. That gets represented with your price of your shopping. Or if you go to the pub and buy a beer, you'll notice that the price of a beer, I mean, if in London, beer is about £5 a pint. Sometimes even more if you get one of these sort of flashy craft beers. But, we've got to a situation now where their fiat system is collapsing because the value of their money is now zero. The American dollar is, over the last about 100 years, 1913, I believe the central bank in America was created. So over the last 100 years, and so 107 years, they've devalued the currency to the point where it's worth nothing. So they have to reset it. Now, ordinarily, when they get to this point in their fiat money nonsense, where we are right now, and it's got to the end of its life, they normally have an event such as a war so that they can sort of write it off and say, well, it's because of the war that we had to do this. Now, the central bank in America, the Federal Reserve, privately owned central bank, just privately owned. Remember that, you own nothing like it, but privately owned central bank's okay. So they've got to the point now where they didn't have a war, they didn't have anything to blame it on, and then all of a sudden what happens? Oh, we've got COVID. Okay, that sounds reasonable. So we've got to this point, they didn't have anything to blame it on, and obviously Trump is pulling troops out of the war, so they can't sort of really blame it on the war anymore. So how do we get rid of the system and implement a new one with more control for them, the central bankers and the elites of the world? So, as I said, you won't own anything and you'll rent everything. But who are you going to rent it from? Someone's going to own it. Now, that leads on to another thing as well. If you don't know, countries are corporations. They're not. They're run as a corporation. It's a corporation. So that's the first thing you need to know. Countries are corporations, and they're incorporated. So when you understand that, and you understand the money supply comes from a privately owned central bank, then things become a lot clearer. Now, this Great Reset is all about resetting the world to the way that they want it to be. Now, that can take a lot of different forms, obviously. But this climate change thing, they're talking about this climate change agenda and spending, trillions trillions from the public purse to make things the way that they want it to be with this climate change agenda at the top of the list. So they're going to have all these whiz-bang programs where we're having more windmills fortunately on a day like today the windmills would work and generate a lot of electricity, but here there's not always wind. And if you live in the UK, with solar, not so much. So it's the agenda only goes so far, and this is more about control than it is about helping anything. And I'll clarify that by saying, how do we get to a point now where we all want to change from using fossil fuels and oil as fuel to going to these clean fuels? Why is that the case? Politicians over the decades have made regulations for these oil companies to be able to keep on doing what they're doing, poisoning the planet and poisoning the air, the water, the food that we eat. The politicians created this mess, and now we are the ones who have to pay to fix it. So these are the elites of the world, the politicians, as I say, that go to Davos, and the millionaires and billionaires, they go there and they make these decisions to fix the problems that they created in the first place. But the public, you and me, have to suffer because of that. Our rights get taken away, and our ability to live our lives the way that we want it to. Like right now, if you haven't heard, we're talking about the COVID situation, and they're talking about mandating vaccines. A vaccine, there's two of them at the moment. I think one is 90% effective and one is 94% effective. Now, for a virus where the survival rate is 99.98% for your immune system that does that, why is it that we'd swap over, that we're going to inject something foreign into our body, right? We're going to inject something foreign into our body, mandated, that's what they're talking about, mandating it, to combat something that you've got more of a chance of surviving in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense at all. When you have that kind of reality thrust upon you and you're thinking, well, why would I want to have a vaccine when I'm more likely to survive from my own immune system anyway? But then it goes a step further and they say, well, if you want to get on a plane or if you want to go to a concert, Ticketmaster's saying if you want to go to a concert, you have to have a vaccine certificate to say that you've had the vaccine. If you want to go on a plane, you have to have the same thing. So they're changing the way that we can live our lives and the freedoms that we have. Well, we don't have a lot of freedom anyway, but you get the point. That then they want to chip you, to track and trace. They chip you so that they can constantly track you. Digital identity and the vaccine that they're talking about has got something called luciphase or There's a dye, an ink that's in there that shows up there so that it can be scanned. Luciphase, I think it's called. So there's this ink that shows up once you've had the vaccine. You can be scanned for it. It's a pretty dark agenda that they're trying to do, all in the name of saving us and saving the planet. When realistically, COVID poses no problem at all. And that's not me saying that. That's plenty of doctors are saying that. But then you've got doctors who are being threatened with their career if they dare to come out and go against the media and the government line on this nonsense. So you can see it's quite a dark agenda. If you, like I say, I'll post the link in the description in the comments section below about what the World Economic Forum plans to do. And it all sounds wonderful and fluffy until you really think about it and say, well, I'm not going to own anything and I'm going to be happy. Who owns everything? So they're talking about debt cancellation for poor countries and things like that as well, which all sounds fluffy and wonderful, but where does the money come from? Oh, from the privately owned central banks. Yeah. And the privately owned central banks lend that money to the governments of the world, lend it with interest, and then the taxpayer has to foot the bill for that interest and that money to pay back. And for all these programs as well that they want to implement, all the green deals, and they're like in America, they've got this Green New Deal opposed by this Ocasio-Cortez woman. like I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I will debate anybody in the world, anywhere, anytime, in person, not on the internet. I'm not interested in doing that. I'll debate anywhere, anytime, anyone. I don't care what their qualification is. I'm willing to debate them anywhere, anytime about this nonsense. COVID, the Green New Deal, the climate change, anyone, anywhere, anytime. So if you think you got it, bring it. If you think somebody's a genius, educated person, then I'm more than happy to debate them too. Now, the difference between what NESARA and GESARA and the Great Reset is proposing is NESARA and GESARA is taking countries back to constitutional law, which is the law of the land, which gives you the right to be a citizen and to have governance over your own body and your own life, which is the way it should be. Let's face it. You don't want government meddling in your everyday life. You don't want the nanny state. No one wants to live in a nanny state. We need sort of smaller governments who are there to serve us. The governments haven't been serving the people for a long, long time. But one of the precepts of the NESARA and GESARA is going back to constitutional law, obviously, but debt cancellation. Now, how does that debt cancellation work? Now, I've been looking at this for a long time, and there's only one way I can see this all playing out, that debt cancellation works. Now, I know that there's going to be some people sitting there going, that'll never happen. Okay, we'll come back to that in just a couple of minutes. But NESARA and GESARA. So basically, one of the precepts is debt cancellation. Now, if you think about how it can be done, if you've got a privately owned central bank has issued the money in the first place, the currency, unlawfully really, because it was never ratified by Congress in America, but that's another subject altogether. So they produce all the currency. So they're the ones that own the debt. So they own the debt. It's a debt note. The fiat currency is a debt note. They own the debt. Now, what happens if, for instance, all the bad debt of the world gets put back onto the central bank's books? So they have to. They're basically they pay out my mortgage. So, in terms of how it would normally work, if I own the debt, then I own the property. Now, let's just say, for instance, that the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, all the central banks in the world, wherever you live, there always is one. If they were to take on all that debt, right, and then they went bankrupt, if they were to go bankrupt, all that debt would be wiped away, gone. And then the treasuries of the countries, the treasuries of the countries could print their own money for that country and not be relying on a privately owned central banks to issue the currency anymore. Now, is that possible? I hear you asking. Of course it's not. It's ridiculous. Now, I've heard this many times, and I've heard of people online talking about, I've had my debt cancelled, my student debt's gone, whatever it is. I experienced it myself personally, and I've been checking with other people that I know to see if it's happened to them as well. Not as yet, but personally, I have had debts cancelled from my company account. I have my own company. I've had debt cancelled from my company account, a loan and a credit card debt, gone. Last Thursday, disappeared, balance zero. No, that wasn't the white power symbol. It's an OK symbol, gone, zero. Let's clarify that. All the people out there thinking that's a white power symbol, you really don't know a bloody piss take when you see one. That debt was gone. I mean, it's just cancelled. If it hadn't happened to me, I'd still be doubtful about it, but it did. And that's the key to the nuts and bolts of everything, is that debt has been put onto the central banks and they're going to go bankrupt. And they're going to be put out of business. So they're going to be left holding the bag of all the debt that they've created in the first place. So, the difference between the Great Reset and this NESARA and GESARA, there's a lot of crossovers like debt cancellation, but the difference between the debt cancellation of NESARA and GESARA and the Great Reset would be that the public purse would still be indebted to the central banks in the Great Reset, whereas doing it the other way with NESARA and GESARA, the debt is wiped away, which is a much better way rather than being reliant on the central banks of the world. We want to get away from that reliance. The car coming back again, the Environment Agency. yeah, the Environment Agency out here in the forest. It's wonderful. They take care of this place. It really is a beautiful place I live. Sorry about that. So yeah, if you have a look around, like I say, I'll post the links. There's NESARA and GESARA links all over the internet. Some are absolute garbage, they're bullshit, so it's hard to know which one to look at. I'll see if I can find the right one to post in the comment section as well, so you can do a comparative side by side by yourself. But, you know, be very, very wary about this push for this great reset, and who's behind it, who's controlling it, and what it means to your life and my life on a daily basis. Because as we've seen with politicians forever and a day, you can't trust them. And the media is pushing this as well. The media is pushing this narrative, oh, we have to do this great reset and it's all going to be wonderful for the people. It's not. The media lies, politicians lie. And when you get to the upper levels of, you know, the World Economic Forum, which is a privately owned company, you know, non-government organisation, NGOs, like people like George Soros are involved. You know, when people like that are involved, you know you've got to question whether it's going to benefit you or you and I, or whether it's going to benefit them. Ultimately, it will benefit them. And you know, you and I are nothing to them. We really are. We're not even a piece of gum on their shoe. So as long as you understand that, you'll probably be all right. Now, how does this all tie into Donald Trump? It does. You know, now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It doesn't matter what you think about Donald Trump. You can hate the guy, it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. But Donald Trump is the only one that's standing in the way of this great reset going ahead, because America has to be on board with it, because if they're not, it can't happen, because it's all based, the entire world economy is based on the American dollar. So, if Donald Trump's not on board with this thing, or if he's still in power, then it's not going to go ahead, which is why they're pushing so hard to get Joe Biden across the line, because he is a stooge for this World Economic Forum, for the central bankers of the world. And Trump isn't owned by them. And I know I've heard many arguments, with the Rothschild bailed Trump out. Forget about all that, because it's just the media narrative that they want you to hear. So imagine for a moment that, if you will, that we've had an election. You've heard about it in my last video. If you haven't watched that one, have a look. You've had an election, there are questions that need to be answered in that election, and the media has declared a winner. The media, not the electoral commission. The media have declared a winner, and they're saying to Trump, you have to leave power. The world, I mean, the world we live in is delusional. I mean, it's crazy at the moment. It's absolutely crazy when you have the media saying that, you know, they've declared a winner and Trump has to leave power. It's nuts. It is absolutely nuts. You know, I want to see a fair election. I'm sure we all do. We want to make sure that the right person has been elected by the people, which is what elections are supposed to be about. And those things have to be checked. If there is voter fraud, if there's widespread, even if there's a minimal amount of voter fraud, it needs to be investigated before you can go ahead and declare a winner. That hasn't happened yet. So Trump is still in power. And until such time as a winner has been declared, if it has to go to court, then it's going to go to court. It's not the first time. It's happened many times in history where it's gone to court, so don't get all wound up about it. But, you know, where we are right now, the world is delusional. People are believing what they see in the media, and it's propaganda and it's a lie. Trump is the only one standing in the way of this great reset. We should all be thankful for that, because it's not going to benefit you and I. So I urge you all to do a bit of research into this subject, because you know, whether you care about it or not is irrelevant, because it's going to affect your life. It's going to affect your children's life. You know, we all want to transition to a clean power and all that kind of jazz, but the way that they're trying to do it by forcing it is not the way to do it. There has to be some kind of plan of how we could possibly change from the entire world relying on oil to changing over to a new power source and new cars and things. I can't afford a brand new electric car. I'm sure probably most of the people watching this can't afford a new car. But, you know, a new electric car, you know, I want a Tesla, £110,000 for a Tesla. I can't afford that. And many, many people are in the same position as I am. So, you know, this transition, you know, to snap your fingers one day and to say, well, that's it, we're going to change, and that's all the people who work in the oil industry. Sorry, you know, yeah, but you can transition over to the new power sources. You know, it's just so do some research for yourself, because I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I know everything, because I don't. You know, I'm just a guy on the internet, as far as you know. I'm just some guy. I'll post the links in the comment section below so you can look at it yourself and make up your own mind. And the whole point of doing these videos is just so I can get my voice out there amongst a lot of other people that have. There's a lot of channels that have been shut down on the internet because they go against the grain, because they're speaking truth to power. People like Charlie Ward, Red Pill 78, oh crikey, who else is that? There's a lot of people who've had their channels taken away or demonetized because they dared to speak out against tyranny. And it's obvious tyranny was happening right now. Now, all that said, I don't want to finish this video on a bad note, and I don't want to finish it, you know, having you thinking, well, it's all over, the world's gone to a terrible place. Because look, we've got enough sadness, we've got enough unhappiness and tragedy in the world at the moment, and fear and panic. And fear is what it's all about. They're trying to make you fearful and trying to make you panic and make you worry about, oh my God, the state of the world, what are we going to do? When you don't need to. So don't go there. You know, so just the reason I come out here for these walks in beautiful places like this, through the forest, get some fresh air, is because I want you to be, you know, to be able to take some time for yourself as well and go out into the world. If you haven't got somewhere like this around your house, you know, find somewhere that you can go, even if it's just the local park, just to get out of your house and go and meet some people and go and interact with people. Don't just sit there and looking at your phone all day and stressing about with the way the world is, because it doesn't help. And I'm as guilty of it as everybody else. You know, I spend a lot of time on my phone because I research a lot. But, you know, it doesn't help us. So I want you all to think about, focus on, you know, the positives that you have in your life. And everyone does have them, but it's so easy to focus on the negatives and be fearful and worried and panicky about the way the world is, whether it's about money or your health or your children or your family or whatever it is. Don't focus your energy on the negative. Focus your energy on the positive, because, you know, if you're right up here, everything else is fine. It's you know, the whole way the media and the governments are portraying everything is fear, panic, worry, doubt, and it doesn't help. You need to have, you know, like my favourite saying is, have a smile on your face and a song in your heart, and you can't go wrong. You know, get up, listen to some music, do whatever it is that makes you happy, because that happiness will spill out of you and go into the rest of the world. And you can change the world with your attitude, your personality, with a smile. Even if you're missing a tooth like I am. One day I might get to a dentist if they ever open the country back up again and I can go to see a dentist. But right now I have to be happy and not focused on the fact that I'm missing a tooth. And I look like some football hooligan that's been in a fight because, you know, we're fighting over something ridiculous. You know, it's more important that you have a smile on your face. If your bank account's empty, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But also, you know, take some time to have a look at the information. Go out there, spread some love, spread some happiness, interact with each other, smile, sing, dance, go to the park and have a swing on the swing, because that's what's going to change your life, and not all this nonsense that the government's proposing. So I hope you like what I'm talking about today. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, then hit the dislike button. I don't mind. You know, you're your own person. I don't want to tell you how to live, but you know, it helps the channel out if you hit the like and subscribe. If you like what I'm doing, then subscribe, because you never know where I'm going to go to next. I know where I'm going to go to next, and you're probably not going to like the next subject, but I'm going to do it anyway. Next subject's education, by the way. So yeah, if you like what I'm doing, share it, share the video, subscribe to the channel, like, dislike, do whatever you want to do, but keep a smile on your face and a song in your heart, and go out in the day and spread some joy. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. Bye.